In the wet conditions at Circuit of the Americas, it was Sebastian Vettel taking another pole position in the closing stages of the session. As the standing water on circuit drained away, it was the intermediates which proved to be quickest, and Vettel was absolutely dominant at over 6/10 quicker than Kevin Magnussen, who flexed Renault's new muscles to grab a slot on the front row. Generally one to excel in these conditions, Hamilton was almost 9/10 slower than the German, but much quicker than his teammate Stoffel Vandoorne, who didn't even feature in the top 10. Max Verstappen outqualified his teammate, a much better showing than in Bahrain, and starts on the second row for the Silver Arrows. Although Hülkenberg was 6/10 slower than Magnussen, he seems satisfied with the pace of his Renault, edging out Sirotkin for P5. Row 4 is all Williams, with Stroll getting the better of Bottas, and rounding out the top 10 is the all-French Row 5 Gasly ahead of Grosjean, and with Aarava stranded in P11 after getting caught out by the changing conditions.
What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to MyDriver 2018, episode number 2 today for the USA Grand Prix. And as you just seen there, the starting grid is very mixed up, which means we are going to get a very spicy race indeed. You see myself here in P11, Ricciardo and Vandoorne right behind me. So familiar faces around here on the grid, but a bit of an unfamiliar placing on the grid. So we've got a lot of fighting back to do. But before we get into the rest of the episode and into the race strategy, just a little note. Firstly, thank you guys so much for the amazing support on episode number 1. Comments absolutely insane to read through. The amount of love for this series, so heartwarming. So thank you very much for that. And the likes were insane on episode number 1. So let's try and match that again for episode number 2. But thank you so much for that. And secondly, just a little reminder that this series is a weekly series, one a week, every single Monday at 7 PM UK time. That's GMT time on a Monday every single week. Only one episode a week, because as you guys, most of you guys know and understand, I'm at university at the moment. This series takes hours to make, so I can only do and afford to do one episode a week. You know, I've been seeing plenty of comments on other videos asking where MyDriver is, and it's a case of I can't do any more. Me doing those other videos doesn't affect the editing of this video. It's just a simple case that spreading it out like this, one a week, makes it more kind of special thing every single week as well, I feel, but also just gives me the time to actually spend to polish off these videos. So hopefully you guys can appreciate that. And if you do see comments along the lines of where's MyDriver in the middle of the week on other videos, I would appreciate you just informing them. But anyway, let's get on to the race strategy today. We're going for a 2-stop because my engineers were going to recommend me a 1-stop there, but I really don't fancy doing a lot of tyre wear. I think the best approach will be very punchy from back here in P11 on the grid. So that's going to be the plan today. So we're going to go soft and then 2 super soft sets, go really aggressive, and I'm hoping that will be the key to success today at the USA Grand Prix.
So let's take a look at the starting grid for today's US Grand Prix. Once again, it is Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari that is on pole position, but alongside him this time, it is the Renault of Kevin Magnussen. Then comes Lewis Hamilton in 3rd position alongside Max Verstappen with a much better qualifying this time around. Nico Hülkenberg will be starting from 5th alongside Sergei Sirotkin for Audi in 6th position. Then it's all Williams on the 4th row with Lance Stroll ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Pierre Gasly is the lead Red Bull for today's race from 9th position alongside Romain Grosjean in 10th for Haas. Then comes Aarava down in 11th alongside Charles Leclerc in 12th for Alfa Romeo. Then comes Daniel Ricciardo way down in 13th position alongside the champion Stoffel Vandoorne for McLaren in 14th. Joseph Newgarden for Haas down in 15th alongside Pascal Wehrlein in the Mercedes in 16th position. Then comes Giovinazzi and Sainz in the Toro Rossos alongside each other in 17th and 18th. Sergio Perez in the Force India disappointed with 19th. Schumacher in 20th as well, disappointed, and also Esteban Ocon and Nico Rosberg bringing up the rear on the final row of the grid.
So without further ado, let's get into this. We go to 5 red lights for the USA Grand Prix here in Austin, Texas. What can we do today? The lights go out, and from P11 we get a pretty okay start on Romain Grosjean. Bit of wheel spin in 3rd gear, but that's fine. We move to the right side of the circuit there, and we're going to have to look into where we're going to go into turn 1. Bottas gets held up by Gasly. We double lock up to avoid him, and look at that, Vettel's lost pole position there. He's way down the order. Gasly's off on the left. Hamilton's off on the right. He comes across, big spin there from Hamilton, and there's been a safety car is being called. I suspect Hamilton, yeah, he's out of the race. Hamilton has crashed out of the USA Grand Prix drama here at the very first lap, very first corner indeed of the Grand Prix. And Vettel has lost pole position. Looked like he was down in like P5 at least there. off pole. So let's take a look at this replay here. Now you can see going to turn 1, it's the Renault leading the way, 3 abreast here. Hamilton pushes Vettel wide, actually, very aggressive there. And then Hamilton gets clipped from the other Renault, I think of Hulkenberg that will be, as Magnussen leads the way into the S section. But here's a look at the pole man himself, Sebastian Vettel. So he goes into turn 1 on the outside of Hamilton. You can see just like Rosberg got squeezed out in 2015, Vettel gets pushed wide a little bit. You can see up ahead he gets a great view of Hamilton pushed off by the Renault, but also Vettel got a tap himself on the rear end, so I have a suspicion that might be Pierre Gasly. So we're having a look at our teammate here. Pierre goes up into turn 1, gets a great run on, I think this is Stroll on the right hand side because Bottas is behind him. You can see the Audi of Sorokin right ahead of him. Here's Vettel going wide, and oh, that is so unlucky there for Gasly to get hit by Vettel, and then oh my god, gets another punt from the second Ferrari. That is, look at this, a replay there. What an impact there from Gasly. He is so lucky not to have a wheel off or a front wing off there. And now the man in question, Lewis Hamilton, great start on Sebastian Vettel, goes down the inside of him in the middle of a Renault and Ferrari sandwich here. And there you go, Hamilton goes intentionally wide there to push Vettel off, then gets a tap from Hulkenberg. Now this is the stupid part for me. Hamilton coming across track, what is he doing? And what an impact there from the turquoise Toroso. Look at this. That is a devastating impact there. But that brings up a debate that we've had previously in MyDriver. If you remember back to 2 seasons ago, 2016, there was a lot of questioning done over Hamilton's actions in the 2016 season of MyDriver. Then back in that season, really big questions over what Hamilton's been doing. Coming back on track very unsafely, and yet again, 2 years later, looks like he hasn't learned the lesson. He comes back on track very aggressively and really causes that, well, he is the cause of that accident between the Toro Rosso and himself. And here's Van Dorn. He's going to get caught up with Hamilton, just about narrowly misses him on the left-hand side, and I narrowly miss Hamilton on the right-hand side. But you can see now here, a view from Pascal Wehrlein. I think he gets a very good view of everything. There you go. Whoa, look at that. He got a front row seat to that impact with the Toro Rosso and the McLaren. But what a crazy, chaotic first lap. And that means you're not dreaming. You can rub your eyes and pinch yourself as much as you want. This is what we're seeing here. We have got a Renault leading the USA Grand Prix. Kevin Magnussen leads the USA Grand Prix. And Max Verstappen in the lowly Mercedes in second place. They've had deployment issues all pre-season. They've brought an upgrade for the USA Grand Prix, but it's not good enough to actually get them a legit second place here at the moment. So Verstappen really benefiting from that crazy qualifying and then the chaos that was ensued after turn 1. But now we cut later on to the end of lap 4 now. The safety car been out for a while to clear that debris, but we move on to lap 5 now. We've got a run on Romain Grosjean on the green light off the safety car, getting the slipstream of the Frenchman. We go down the inside and very aggressively trying to get a move on already in this Grand Prix. Hit the apex, lovely, and we're up into P8 now. We can try and have a look at the Williams car of Stroll and Bottas, that line astern there. So very quick getaway there. You can see Van Dorn also following me through there. So now he's up into 9th. He's on the super soft tyres. So he's gone very different to a lot of us around here on soft tyres. A lot of us who, weren't starting the grid where we expected to be. We've gone onto a harder tyre, whereas Van Dorn's going very aggressive on the super softs. Meanwhile, anyway, we're in the slipstream of Stroll down the inside. We'll get him on the late braking. We'll go side by side, a little lock up there, but Stroll just doesn't have the downforce to cope with it, and we get up into what will be now 7th place. As you can see, Van Dorn also very aggressively on the back of Stroll, trying to basically copy what I'm trying to do. Follow me through. It's a bit of a kind of guide through this pack of slower cars of the Williams car. Up ahead, though, you can see Vettel at the moment. Looks like he's being blocked off by the Audi and the 2 Renaults. You can see Max Verstappen is leading the USA Grand Prix, so that's even more surprising. Verstappen's got the Renaults off the start there. You can see I'm getting held up by the Williams of Bottas now, but Max Verstappen leading the USA Grand Prix. Didn't think I'd be saying that at the start of pre-season, to see where Mercedes were so low also in the last Grand Prix. But so far, so good for the Dutchman, who still leads the way on lap 6, as we're going to tuck in behind Valtteri Bottas and try and get this 6th place from him. We duck to the left-hand side of the circuit, down the inside. Very similar move to the one we made on Grosjean a few laps ago. And now we're up into P6 behind one German, Sebastian Vettel, the pole sitter man, who's still stuck behind the Audi and the 2 Renaults. Although I think it's going to be a matter of time before Vettel dispatches of Sorokin. So we move later on into the Grand Prix now, midway through lap 7. And speaking of Sorokin, there he is now up ahead of us in P5. Probably still loving life and thinking he's probably dreaming at this point. He's in the top 5 of a Formula 1 Grand Prix in a brand new Audi car. He is probably just living the life at the moment, smiling away in that helmet, but we're going to kind of ruin his day here now because we're going to be in DRS finally of the Audi car. But look at that, the Audi engine, not too bad to be honest. Probably Audi have gone for a low drag sub, to be honest, because that's probably the way to go for a slower team. And you can see there, no use for him to try and defend. We really pounce on him down the inside, and a very, very easy move for him. Just kind of, you know, confirming to us probably that the Audi team are probably running a low drag setup. I mean, that's what I would do if I was in a lower car, you know, go for that straight line speed to try and keep ahead of people on the straights and try and just do your best in the corners. But it's no use for him. We pounce on him like we've seen Daniel Ricciardo in this Red Bull do so many times in the past in real life Formula 1. And now we're right behind Sebastian Vettel, who you can see still getting held up by slower cars. This time the Renault of Hulkenberg and Magnussen, who lie astern in second and third. So the Renault team, also another set of people that are probably just dreaming right now of what they're achieving at the moment. They're still in a podium position as we move on to lap 9, about a third of the way, I would say, into this Grand Prix. We move into turn 1. Oh, Magnussen tried to spin. Magnussen spun. Oh, God, we've tapped him. We've lost a bit of our end plate, but Magnussen, very dramatic spin against Hulkenberg. That came out of nowhere there. Didn't look like he was going to do anything. He was just right behind Hulkenberg, and then pop, just a random spin there, and we've lost a big part of our front wing. You can see on the left hand side of our car, compare it to the right, that's a big chunk of cascades we've lost off the front wing. You can see the understeer is already starting to kick in there, and our engineer has informed us of that downforce loss. Let's take a look at this. This is Magnussen closing up on Hulkenberg, but I don't see where he's going to make contact here. Oh, wow. Second part of the braking phase, so odd. Such an odd crash to have. It looked like he was perfectly fine. He's going to make the braking zone, and then just whoop, just to lock up on the left tyre, lock up on the right tyre, smashes into his teammate, and yeah, he's gone. He's spun. So here's Vettel's point of view. He actually gets really lucky here. Just about avoids Magnussen, brakes enough, and I was coming in with too much heat there because I was ready to kind of close up to Sebastian, go right up his gearbox, so I wasn't ready for a Renault to be, you know, parked there giving me a T-bone situation into turn 1. So we lost a lot of downforce there, and you can see through that triple right-hander I was losing a lot of time, a lot of understeer. So on lap 12 we come in. I wanted to try and stretch this stint onto maybe lap 14, but it was just unbearable. The understeer was so bad on any right-hander, so we had to come in. We definitely were losing time hand over fist to Sebastian Vettel, so it is the right call, I feel, and my engineers do so as well. So we come in for a set of super softs. Remember the strategy: soft, super soft, super soft, going very, very aggressive there. We get held up a little bit, obviously, because of the front wing change, so we'll lose about 5 seconds there. Although saying that, we are still ahead of the Williams car and the Ferrari behind us of Daniel Ricciardo, so that's all good in the grand scheme of things. But we're going to come out, looks like in quite a bit of clean air actually, so that's pretty good and decent for us. Just behind the Haas car of Newgarden, I think that is, in the second Haas car. So we've been seeing a lot of them and the Williams car lately in this Grand Prix as well. So we're going very aggressive now. A lot of people in this Grand Prix are going to be doing the one stop, the soft and then medium, or the medium and then soft. So we're going very, very different to most people in this Grand Prix, and immediately you can see we're reaping the benefits, because literally on the same lap, lap 13 now, as we come out on our outlap, getting so much more grip compared to the American of Newgarden and his home Grand Prix. The crowd probably cheering him on as much as they can, but he simply doesn't have anything to answer with me. You know, the Haas car, inferior car already with the downforce and on worn soft tyres. That was a very easy move, and probably, you know, should have been. I would have been a bit concerned if it wasn't on Newgarden. So now we move later on into the Grand Prix, lap 14. This will be one lap later, right behind Daniel Ricciardo, the Australian, in the Ferrari. You can see on the medium tyre, so a difference of 2 compounds of softness there, and you can see the difference. We've got DRS as well, got a great run actually off that last corner, the hairpin corner, onto that back straight, and we're able to overtake Ricciardo, so he's moving down the order. So this is where we're really going to have some fun here, just being very, very aggressive, pushing as hard as I can, and basically doing the opposite of what all the drivers do in real life, which is taking care of the tyres. I'm just taking the life out of them, because I know I'm going to have to pit again for another set of super stops, where all these guys are pretty much going to try and go to the end once they've made one more pit stop. So I need to be effectively one pit stop ahead of the people I'm fighting, which is none of these guys, frankly. I want to be trying to fight Verstappen potentially to try and get right up there for the podium potential. We go down the inside of what will be Hulkenberg in the Renault, so he's moving down the order slowly. The Renault cars are slowly just coming down into more kind of a realistic position for them. But I thought I could get Hulkenberg on the entry of that corner, but look at this. He gets DRS off Gasly and actually actually keeps up with me. That Renault also, as we mentioned last race at Bahrain, that Renault, you know, lack of downforce, so they go for the more straight line speed setup versus our Red Bull chassis, which is all about downforce, so they're a bit nippier in a straight line compared to us. So also being a works team, they probably have a little bit of inside knowledge, maybe how to work the engine a little bit more if they want to get up into rich mix. But now we find ourselves right up the gearbox of our teammate Gasly here, who's on a set of medium tyres since the start of the Grand Prix. So at this point, I'm screaming into the team radio to tell them to let Pierre to let me through, basically, because he's on such worn tyres at this point that it was no use fighting me. And thankfully, Pierre does cooperate there, so we move up very easily on that triple right-hand dot with the super softs. Anyway, we did have the grip, but you know, Pierre went a little bit wide there and let us through, thankfully. So being a good teammate there, and so far so good in terms of the teammate into teammate relationship there. So we go through the final corner now. Van Dorn, you can see on super softs there, going into the pit. So Van Dorn went super softs at the beginning, remember, so he's gone super soft, and then we'll probably be going to another set of softs here. So he's basically doing the strategy I'm doing, but in the reverse order. So it looks like me and Van Dorn are the only people to try that, because Ricciardo, who was lining alongside us on the grid, was on a set of medium tyres. So only me and Van Dorn bold enough to try this aggressive setup, and probably showing you who's got the confidence around this circuit. You know, if you remember back to the qualifying reports, I did get provisional pole position before the intermediate conditions came in, so I do have the pace around here at USA. I felt really confident around this track. But you can see now we move on to lap 19. You can see there we've been notified that Giovinazzi, the second Toroso, is out of this Grand Prix, so calamities for the Toroso team as a whole. Both drivers out of the USA Grand Prix after such a great Bahrain one for them last time out. And this is Giovinazzi in the wars here. This is not actually how he goes out the Grand Prix, but just showing that he really was scrapping away, but having a pretty okay race. But there, you know, getting half spun around by the Williams, losing his front wing, half the front wing, behind the Williams car. But then this is the point where he retires, going on the triple right-hander, just behind Gasly actually, so catching up. And there, a very, very dramatic engine blowout there. Huge one for Toroso, and that'll be a little bit concerning for me also, and Christian Horner, obviously having the same Renault engine, so that's a little bit concerning. But such a shame really, because earlier on in the Grand Prix, Giovinazzi showing here having some great battling with the Force Indies, trying to come back. Obviously both Torosos way down the order, you know, down in, you know, the bottom half of the grid at the start of this Grand Prix. But he was having a fantastic race compared to his teammate that went out on the first lap. He was battling back through and eventually caught up to Gasly there. Such a shame for that engine retirement, but that's something that Renault will hopefully look into, because that's concerning for not only them, but for my team and also the two Renaults who have been doing fantastically this race. So let's hope for their sake and for my sake that we don't have any engine issues, just like Giovinazzi there. But anyway, we're into the pits now for our second pit stop here. So, you know, towards the end of that stint, just pushing on as much as we could, but the tyres were eventually starting to kind of go off their pace. So it's time for a new set of boots and a new set of super soft tyres. So now, literally, probably the words that every F1 fan wants to hear from the real life drivers, it's time to just push 100% and just take the life out of these tyres and really just wring the neck out of this car and see what we can do around here at USA. We've got the downforce, that, you know, very famous Red Bull downforce. Let's see what it can do. And by lap 21, the end of it, as we go into the hairpin, we've already caught up to Verline, who's going very slow on medium tyres. You can see off the exit this corner, just look at that, the sheer difference in pace on the engine power, just showing Mercedes really are struggling on that deployment. And that actually probably shows how lucky Max Verstappen has got in this Grand Prix, really. And we go very aggressively and go back into the racing line, just because I've got a little bit of a personal issue with Verline, if you remember from the previous seasons. I was previously at Mercedes, and to say the least, me and Verline didn't have the best relationship, and we fell out a little bit at Mercedes. So I was feeling a little bit kind of punchy there on getting back onto the racing line. But yeah, going back to that, showing that pace difference in the engine power. And so it does show how lucky Verstappen got on that start of the Grand Prix to be still leading the Grand Prix, I think, at this stage in that inferior Mercedes. And almost for now, he's emulating what I managed to do last season. You remember, in 2017, I was able to get 2 early wins in a very inferior Mercedes, and this Mercedes of this year, 2018, is even more inferior than last year. So Verstappen is doing a great job to be still up there, you know, holding on to the lead, although I feel like Vettel's probably going to be pressuring him quite hard here. Speaking of pressurizing, we're right behind the Renault of this will be Hulkenberg. We're going to try and re-overtake him. Remember, we had to overtake him once. We'll do it again, this time in the S section. Don't want to wait around for him until we go down the inside. Very, very close stuff there. Hulkenberg thankfully did see me in the mirrors there. We were kind of hounding him a little bit for about a lap and a half there before, but on lap 23, we're now up into 4th place and trying to gun for that podium. And here we go. We've caught up to Daniel Ricciardo on the set of medium tyres, trying to go to the end of this Grand Prix. And just mentioned before, with Gasly being having poor tyre wear, again Ricciardo been a while on these medium tyres, he's going to have very poor tyre wear. But with DRS now, he's got no DRS to help him, no cars ahead of him to help him with that. So he surely will get this move pretty easily. A nice kind of easy DRS move down the inside of the back straight. And now we're up into the podium position. So you've got to say this has been a pretty damn good performance, if I do say so myself, to get up into a podium position. And, yeah, all kind of started with avoiding that Hamilton crash, because it could have been a very different Grand Prix. If I hadn't have avoided Hamilton, that could have been a very easy kind of just completely crash out of this Grand Prix. We do have the damage on simulation for this series, so it could have been a very nasty one. But anyway, as we move on to the end of the Grand Prix, just want to showcase to you some moves down the order, because I want to try and do that this season, kind of give you guys a bit of a story of what's happening behind me, not just my story. And you can see here, Mick Schumacher in the Alfa Romeo doing the work here against the two Williams car. You can see the Renault of Magnussen also getting into the scrapping, and Renault trying to do their best to fight Williams. But Alfa Romeo here with Mick Schumacher. Leclerc got points last time, Bahrain, and Schumacher at the moment doing the work there in the Williams. You can see on those previous scenes in the Grand Prix, doing the work to get his first points of this season, and to continue the scoring streak for Alfa Romeo. Speaking of a Ferrari team, Scuderia Ferrari, the main works Ferrari team, has now won a Grand Prix finally, with Sebastian Vettel coming right back at it in this season. Obviously out of the Grand Prix at Bahrain, comes back at it and shows who's boss here, and he wins the USA Grand Prix. But we come home for a fantastic third place. I'm so happy with that. And after obviously the slight injustice I felt of our last race, we lost out of that podium so narrowly to Ricciardo. This time it's nice to finally step onto the podium. But there is Sebastian Vettel winning the Grand Prix. I'm sure he is so relieved to get a win under his belt now early on in the season, especially after the calamities that were last race. And he must have been dreading, like, oh, what kind of bad luck I'm going to get again for the third time or fourth time really in a row in the MyDriver universe. But he's come through today to win it for Ferrari. So after that hectic race, this is how the championship now stands. Stoffel Van Dorn still leading the way in his McLaren after getting that win at Bahrain, and a pretty decent result considering all things with turn 1 and also how qualifying went for him. I am now in second place ahead of Daniel Ricciardo for the championship. Sebastian Vettel moves up into fourth place ahead of Lewis Hamilton with that race win today. So Vettel will be very happy to come right back into it after that win. And Max Verstappen doing the job there, getting second place to move up into sixth place ahead of Gasly, which will be a bit disappointing for him. In terms of the constructors, this now means Ferrari actually jump up to first place. So I thought McLaren, surprising with a huge lead after round 1, Ferrari comes swinging right back at them with first place there now after this second round. So it looks like Ferrari and McLaren, that will be the big fight for the constructors. I'm hoping personally that Red Bull can also get in the fight, and also obviously Mercedes will be hoping they can eventually get into that, and also Toroso, because you've got to say Toroso, from the start of this season, you would say, barring this race, they look to be trying to break into that kind of top flight kind of team and be considered in the championship fight. I just don't think they're quite there yet, but all three of us will be hoping we can kind of join Ferrari and McLaren right up for that fight. But it's pretty damn close already in the constructors and the drivers championship, so all very close. But it's only two rounds down. We've got plenty of rounds to go. So far I don't think I can give an opinion on how the championship is shaping up at the moment. You can see a very hectic Grand Prix for this one, so anything can really happen in MyDriver, so you just never know. But guys, if you have enjoyed that thoroughly entertaining USA Grand Prix, then smash the like button. Let's try and see how close we can get to matching last episode's reaction for the likes, and let me know what you thought in the comments below. I loved reading through the comments for episode 1. It was an absolute joy to see you guys enjoying it so much, and some really funny comments that you guys were coming out. My favourite one that I pinned on last episode was 29 minutes of pure sex, which was quite funny to me. So thank you guys so much for comments like that. It really does mean a lot to me and keeps me going, especially when I'm getting quite busy with university work at this point in the year. So thank you so much for that. If you're new around here, then do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and remember, the next episode of this will be next Monday, 7 PM GMT time. If you see anyone else confused about that, then do tell them for me on my behalf. I'll be much appreciative of that. But anyway, till then, guys, and I'll see you in my other videos. Goodbye.